All right. So for today, I wanted to go back to basics, doing the easy sequence, which is familiar to us, but non-vinyasa style. So just a bit of a different approach to our easy sequence, so our basic sequence. So we can start in whatever centering posture you like. But traditionally for this sequence, we would start in Sukhasana easy pose. Before we do that though, you might want 1 or 2 blocks and or a yoga blanket and or there was something else I was thinking, maybe a strap, maybe. But there you go. So we'll start in easy pose or child's pose, whatever is a comfortable starting position for you. And taking a moment to get all settled in. Maybe even closing the eyes. And just letting all your cares and worries float away. Making space in your mind for your yoga practice today. And in our centering posture, it's a really nice time to feel grounded. Sometimes in the busyness of life, we feel a little bit floaty. So feeling grounded, feel the earth beneath you, whether that's your yoga mat or the floor or the carpet, whatever's beneath you, just feeling the strength and solidity of the ground beneath you. And even just a little bit of heaviness in the hips. Feeling the temperature of the air on your skin. Feeling present. And then take a few slow, deep breaths through the nose. Nice, deep, expansive breaths. So little gentle stretch of the lungs on every inhale. And squeezing out that last puff of air on every exhale. And then slowly, if not already, making your way all the way up to Sukhasana easy pose. So usually I get everybody up into downward dog, but today in a crisscross position or cross-legged position, sitting up nice and tall. I just started doing this in my own practice and I love it. Head rolls. It makes the neck feel wonderful. So we'll tilt the head over to the right and then chin moves down. Head moves over to the left. And then even back a little. Round 2. All the way around. Try not to get dizzy. You can close the eyes. Round 3. And round 4. And last one. And float the head back to neutral. Take a moment and then we'll switch sides. So over to the left, down to the right, and back. And keep going. Round 2. Round 3. Four. And 5. And then floating the head back to neutral. We'll head over into a side bend. So leaning over to the left hand, right arm moves up and over to the side. So maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot of it, but just gentle stretch. Few deep breaths here. That's already 3, 4, and 5. Belly scoops in first to come out, and other side up and over. Breathing deep for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Belly scoops in, come on up, and maybe a little bit lower this time onto the elbow. Maybe not though. So know your limits and stay within it. Breathing as deeply as available, really into those right ribs. It's already 3, 4, and 5. Come on all the way up, and other side onto the elbow. Maybe for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Scooping the belly in, come on up. And then a few arm circles. So leaning over onto the left, right arm extends out to the side, bringing it back a little. And then all the way up, over, and around. And again, reaching out and back, all the way over and around. Number 3, back, over, and around. Last time, reaching out and back, over, and around. Other side, reaching out and back, over, and around. Number 2, out, back, over, and around. Number 3, reaching back, over, and around. Number 4, all the way around, smoothing out the circle, and then just one more. Maybe making a little bit bigger circle. And scoop the belly in, coming all the way up. And then we'll get going in a downward dog. I need to pull up my pants for that. So getting up to hands and knees. And then tucking the toes under, pressing the hips up and back. Maybe walking it out a little bit. And then send the feet forward all the way to the top of your mat, landing in a forward fold. So let the head hang, decompressing the spine, feeling that length and space between each vertebra. And then slowly ragdoll all the way up. Just standing. And then we'll prepare for a modified sun salutation A. So this one's quite nice. We'll stand up at the top of the mat in Tadasana mountain pose, lifting up nice and tall. And on an inhale, we'll raise the arms up, taking a moment. I love doing a little stretch here. I know the camera cuts off my arms here, but I like to interlace the fingers, which is not traditional. It's a cheat totally, but feels like a nice stretch, so I really enjoy it. And I like to draw the arms back a little, feeling a nice stretch. And one more inhale to lengthen. On the exhale, gliding forward, Uttanasana. So nice and slow. Feeling that nice length through the backs of the legs. Just a couple deep breaths here. On an inhale, looking up to the horizon for a flat back, shoulders down. And release. From here, we come all the way up again. And reaching way up high, getting taller. And returning to Tadasana mountain pose. So we'll just do one more of our modified sun salutation, just getting a little warmed up. Inhale, arms go up. And exhale, gliding forward, nice and smooth. Uttanasana. Inhale for a flat back, lengthening the spine. And release. And then inhale all the way up to standing. And return to mountain. So we'll do a half of one of those again. So I guess it's 2.5. And here we go. Arms go up. And exhale, forward fold. I wasn't lying. It was just withholding some truth there. That's all. On an inhale, looking up. And then from here, we'll plant the hands and send the feet back to plank. So belly scoops in. And then from here, we'll lift the hips up and straight back to downward facing dog. So skipping that little vinyasa in there. Maybe take a moment in your down dog, feeling that nice stretch in the backs of the legs. And then we'll head into Anjaneyasana low lunge pose. So you can lower through hands and knees first if you like, or head straight there. I like to have something squishy beneath my back knee. So I'm going to take my yoga blanket and place it beneath my left knee. And then I'm just going to discreetly grab my timer. Nobody sees that. Here we go. Right foot steps forward and then come on up. You can do traditional Anjaneyasana arms if you want to. I'm going to do the lazy version and place my hands on my knee and really focus on that gentle stretch in the front of the left hip. And on every exhale, relaxing even more. Allowing that stretch to happen. This is one of those stretches. I don't know why, I really like it, but I tend to avoid this one in my own practice, and I only do this when I make you all do it. So, but it's really good for posture. It's good for injury reduction for the back. It's just such a good for us pose. We'll just hang on a little bit longer here. Sometimes after 30 seconds or so, you can feel the body release just a little bit, and then it feels a little bit nicer. And nice and slowly we'll switch sides. So belly scoops in, moving really slow. I like to move especially slow with those first few moments coming out of a stretch too, like extra slow. And then switching sides. So moving your blanket or cushion, and then left foot steps forward. Get our timer going, taking all the time you need to get set up on that second side. And again, it helps to kind of focus on the stretch and allowing yourself to just sink and melt, especially in the exhales. Just checking in, softening in those spaces you feel the stretch. Last few moments here. I sometimes feel like maybe I should have used a 1-minute timer, but one day when I was vacuuming the studio, I accidentally vacuumed up the 1-minute timer and I've never replaced it. So since then, 2-minute stretches is the minimum that Carla does. So scoop the belly in and really gently. We'll head all the way back to downward facing dog. Maybe walking it out a bit, getting that circulation going again. And then send the feet forward, all the way to the top, landing in a forward fold. And then just like at the beginning, we'll ragdoll all the way up to standing. And if you feel lightheaded at all, one palm to the forehead for a moment. And then we'll head into our standing postures. So normally for this sequence, we would do vinyasa, but I'm actually really excited to do them one at a time, kind of a la carte style. So our first one up is Ashtachandrasana crescent pose. So we'll start from Tadasana mountain pose instead of starting from downward dog. So from mountain at the top of our mat, we'll take a big step back with the left foot and land on the toes. So the ball of the foot goes back, belly scoops in, bending through the front knee. So knee right over the ankle and arms sweep up, either palms together or separated if need be. And then from here, you can adjust your stance. So if this is too long, you can of course shorten it up. Or if it's hard to balance, just take the front foot and step it out to the side a little bit. I like to give myself a little bit of room. And then conversely, if you're like, I'm not feeling the stretch, you can scooch, heel toe, that front foot forward. And then feel that stretch in the front hip flexor, in the front of the hip flexor of the left side, feeling the strength of the right glute. The quads are gonna wanna do most of the work. Try not to let them. Use the glute. Maybe by pressing into the front heel, you can feel them activated. But the essence of the pose, we're not supposed to be on the heel. I just like to do that to get activated. Then length in the waist, scooping the belly in. Arms are up. breathing, maybe even smiling. And then we'll come out. If you're in a wide stance like this, you might need a, there you go, all the way back up to standing. Taking a second. There's another side. I feel like I used all of my effort and energy into that one. So second side, just sort of slowing things down again. So right foot takes a big step back, going back to the basics here. Take those moments. Sometimes when we're in a flow class, we can't really stop for long enough to figure out what length should my stance be? What width should my stance be? So just kind of adjusting until you're like, yeah, I feel that stretch in the front of the left hip flexor. I feel my left glute. And then my arms are up. The back leg is straight and the heel is pressed up to the sky. So there's a tendency to let that back heel drop. Don't let it. It's lifting up. The ribs are square to the front. Sometimes the right ribs scooch out this way. This is me trying to explain things while in the middle of Ashtachandrasana. I'm gonna be quiet now, otherwise they'll keep us here way too long. And then we come out. So all the way back to mountain pose. Okay, here we go. The next one is actually easier. It's warrior one. No, it's warrior three. It's not easier. It's harder, but it's funner. So here we go. Standing in mountain pose. Standing up tall. It's been a while since I've done easy sequence. Lifting up tall. And then we'll send the left toes back. So usually we go right from Ashtachandrasana into Virabhadrasana 3, but this time we're going to go from here. And this is actually easier. So with like 90% of the weight on the front leg, and that front leg is super duper straight, hips are square. So again, going back to basics, checking our alignment. And then I like to do arms in a T position. Left leg goes up. And then we tip over, maybe it's a little bit, or maybe it's all the way until the leg and the torso is parallel to the floor. And we hold. For that extra challenge, you can bring the arms forward. And just notice how if you do that, your hips in space have to shift back a little bit because physics, right? If the arms are to the side, the whole body shifts forward. If the arms go forward, the hips have to shift back because there has to be balanced weight in front of the hips and back, or in front of your foundation, actually, your ankle, your foot. One more inhale to lengthen. And then we stand back up to mountain, shaking or rolling it out. There's another side. Go gadget left side. Here we go. I always do like a silent talk with my own left leg. I'm like, come on, left leg, pull it together. So here we go, standing on that left leg. I like to start with the arms out to the sides, right toes go back, and trying to keep everything square to the front too. Right leg goes up as the torso moves forward. The leg initiates the movement. So our torso only goes lower because the leg is lifting higher. Breathing deep. Finding a focal point, something to stare at. Inhaling to lengthen. And standing back up to mountain. Notice I don't talk so much on the left side. Okay, so then we move on to warrior one, Virabhadrasana 1, which is very similar to Ashtachandrasana in alignment. But from mountain pose, we'll step it back with the left foot. But this time the heel's on the floor. So same thing with the stance, right? How long is my stance today? How wide is my stance today? We want to do our best to get the hips square to the front. Mine won't go unless I step my front foot out a little bit. Then suddenly I have some room. Arms go up. And then we bend as deeply as possible without overdoing things. If you want to take a peek at your back foot, sometimes in a flow class, we don't have time to do that. We want the foot at least at a 45-degree angle, if not a little bit wider, just no further than 90. But eventually it's pretty close to 90. And then so is the front leg. So we want to bend as much as available, but use that right glute. The quads are going to want to take over. Don't let them. Breathing deep. And to come out, I actually like to shorten the stance a little bit first and then come back to mountain. It feels like way nicer of a stretch when we hold it a bit longer. So we'll do the other side. Like I feel imbalanced right now. Sometimes I like doing that. Just think, yeah, I feel a little imbalanced. So now we'll balance that out. Right foot steps back. Same thing. And there could be a little bit of variance between sides. Like for me, my right hip is a little tighter with my leg behind me. So I have to just take that extra moment to, my stance is slightly different on the right side as the left. So if it is for you, just take those moments. Take a peek at what's happening with the back foot. Sometimes it's behind us, we kind of ignore it. And lifting through the waist. Ribs are square forward. And to come out, scoop the belly in, maybe shortening the stance a little bit first, and then coming back to mountain. Okay, doesn't it feel different, vinyasa to standalone poses? It's just a bit of a different practice, and it's nice to do both if you can. So preparing for Virabhadrasana 2 Warrior 2, from mountain, we take a big step back with the right foot, but we face the long edge of the mat. And we've got that heel to arch alignment. So right heel, if there's a line right through, it intersects the back foot arch. Arms up in a T, trying to get those hips and shoulders square to the front. Arms go up. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, bending through that front knee. And looking beyond the right fingertips. And there's always that tendency to kind of lean too far forward or too far back. But one thing I actually do in practice is just actually look. Are my hips square in the center of my foundation? And are they square this way? Is my shoulders square this way? And then finishing it up with looking beyond the front fingertips. Same thing with the glutes though. Use the right glutes. I try to dig into my heel a little bit just to get them activated. And release, coming back to Dandasana mountain pose. Other side. Right foot steps way back. And then adjusting, shuffling your feet as needed to get that heel to arch alignment. Arms go up. Double check though, hips, mine are not in alignment. As I look at myself, shoulders right above the hips. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, bending through that front knee. Use the glutes, reaching, lengthening, and breathing free. That's 2. 3. 4. And 5. Returning to Tadasana mountain pose. And then preparing for Utthita Parshva, extended side angle. We'll take that big step back with the left foot. Starting in Warrior 2, arms go up, bend the front knee. Inhale to lengthen. On the exhale, right forearm to the right thigh. And the left arm sweeps up, the left biceps near the ear. If available, looking up to the top hand. Rotating the heart open to the sky. We're trying to keep the spine long. I know mine tends to kind of banana. So lengthening, breathing deep. Eventually, if you're able, hand goes, oh, that's a big stretch though. Ah, kind of wishing for a take back. Breathing deep, opening up. See, my heart doesn't want to open. It's like, no. And then belly scoops in, coming all the way back up. And then returning to mountain. Other side. Big step back with the right foot, starting in warrior two. So shuffling the feet as needed for that heel to heart alignment. Arms go up. And bending the front knee. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, forearm to the thigh. Top arm sweeps up alongside the top ear. And looking up to the top hand. Breathing deep so the spine is long. And if you did it on the first side, you should probably go ahead and do it on the second side, the advanced variation. And opening in either variation, heart to the sky. That's already 4. And 5. Scoop the belly in, coming all the way up. And returning to Tadasana mountain pose. And then preparing for, I love this pose, Utthita Trikonasana triangle pose. So taking a big step back with the left foot, not too big though, not as big as for warrior, but double check again, heel to arch alignment, arms go up. And then remember there's like 3 different phases. We tend to forget about that, especially in flow. So let the left hip go up and the right hip go down as that right arm is reaching. And then we can place the right hand onto the shin. Top arm goes up to the sky. Eventually that bottom hand will go to the ankle. And then eventually on the floor behind the front ankle. Opening up the heart to the sky. Breathing deep. On an inhale, belly scoops in, come on all the way up. And return to Tadasana mountain pose. Other side. It's interesting how that one still stretches a lot for me, but I somehow like that one more. I'm not really sure the science behind that. Sometimes there's a stretch that I just don't like. And then other times, same sensation, I just don't like it. So right foot steps back, heel to arch alignment, shuffling the feet as needed, not as wide as warrior two. Arms go up. And then remembering that front hip goes down, back hip goes up. And then we reach and lengthen. And then place some weight into that bottom hand. So there needs to be some weight there. Don't let it hang in space. Top arm high to the sky. So even if you are flexible and you're lowering your hand, make sure there's a little bit of weight into the ankle or the floor. And spinning the heart open to the sky. And inhale, come on all the way up. And returning to Tadasana mountain pose. So if you're familiar with the sequence, you'll know the hard part's all done. So we'll do a half vinyasa, like not a real vinyasa, non-vinyasa, down to the floor. Belly scooping in Tadasana mountain pose. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale for flat back. Exhale, going through plank, but just for a moment until the hips go up and back. To down dog, taking a moment here. And then gently lower your knees to the mat through hands and knees. And then we'll come all the way to seated. And reach the feet forward in Tadasana staff pose. lifting up nice and tall, and then we'll prepare for Marichyasana C, which might be helpful if you have a strap, if you're having troubles finding the bind. So I never used a strap, even when I couldn't bind. I was just like, whatever, I'll grab my shirt or whatever I can find. So not necessary, but some people like it. We lift up nice and tall, and then hug the right knee into your chest. If this is where you want to stop, you can stop here. Lifting up nice and tall. With Marichyasana, we want to keep the spine completely perpendicular. So lifting up here, the left arm hugs the knee and the right hand is behind. If you're feeling a little bendy today, you can cross the elbow right over, but do be sure we don't lean back. So we want to lift up nice and tall and then opening through the heart. And then for this one too, we want to stay up nice and tall, but we want to have most of our twist be in the mid back. So trying to keep the belly button facing forward and then feel a mid back turning. Just like we're bringing out a cloth. Our spine is like a cloth. There's more twist in the middle than there is in the neck, which is the top, or the bottom, which is the lumbar spine. Every inhale, lifting up even taller. And every exhale, opening up that back shoulder just another millimeter. That's already 4. And 5. To come out, let's inhale to lengthen one last time. And on the exhale, belly scoops in, we unravel and unwind, returning to Dandasana staff pose, and we prepare for the other side. So bend that left knee in, give it a little squeeze. So same arm as the first side, so either hugging the leg, or if you're feeling bendy, cross the elbow right over. Either way, we're lifting up tall. There's a tendency to overstretch the lats here on the inside, the one towards the knee. So we want to avoid that. We want to lift up tall and not leaning back. So lift up tall and then opening. And same thing again, every inhale, we lift up even taller. On every exhale, we open up that back shoulder just a little bit more. That's already 4. And 5. One more inhale to lengthen. Belly scoops in, and we exhale, unraveling, unwinding, returning to Dandasana staff pose. From here, we'll prepare for pigeon, which is a really nice pose. So you can head all the way up and back to down dog if you like. I'm going to head into it through hands and knees because it's easier. So for this one, we'll send the right knee forward towards the right wrist, and then we'll scooch the foot to the left just a little bit. And then back leg goes back. So I like to sort of tuck my toes under and reach the leg back, back, back. You might want to block beneath that right hip, especially if it's been a little while since we've done this stretch. My hips got really tight over the holidays. So I think I've got it loosened up now though. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, lowering to sleeping pigeon. So this one, remembering it should feel nice. If it doesn't, we need to place a block beneath that right hip or even do the upside down variation. And relaxing. And then slowly, slowly come on up. And we'll switch sides. If you wanted to head all the way up and back to down dog, feel free. Or maybe it's just back to hands and knees. Taking a moment. And when you're ready, the left knee moves forward and the foot moves towards the opposite side. And then back leg goes back as much as possible. Double checking, because sometimes one side feels different than the other. Make sure your knee is completely okay. And then we lower down. Also be sure that you do have an acute angle with this leg. Sometimes I see students trying to bring that foot forward. That creates leverage on your knee, and it's not good for it. Even if it doesn't feel like it hurts, what we're doing there is overstretching the ligament that attaches the upper leg bone to the lower leg bone. So we don't want to do that. That would create instability in the knee over time. So keeping everything nice and safe, feeling just a gentle stretch and relaxing. And slowly, slowly, come on up. I could literally fall asleep in that one. Okay, maybe not literally, but almost. And then either back to hands and knees, or maybe a full downward dog. Sometimes a down dog is nice just to get that circulation going in the legs again. If so, it'll be our last down dog of the day. And then we'll make our way all the way to seated, legs forward in Dandasana staff pose. Preparing for Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. We'll draw the feet in towards the body with the soles of the feet together and allow the knees to lower to the sides. This is where we also might want a block beneath one or both knees. And if you are having a little bit of difficulty staying upright, you can bring the fingertips behind you, but an even better solution is to elevate the hips on a block if necessary, or a folded blanket works well. Sometimes that's not quite enough though, and a couple blankets, even if you can get the body leaning forward just a little bit. So once you're all set up, inhale to lengthen, and on the exhale, leaning forward as much as available. Slow, deep breathing. And then slowly come on up and return to Dandasana staff pose. And then we'll prepare for Upavishta Konasana, seated wide-legged forward bend pose. So turning to the side on your mat. I like to turn sideways on my mat because that way my heels can be on my mat and not on my cold floor. So this one is actually not meant to be very wide. So if you do have a lot of flexibility, or if your students do, it's still meant to be, I like to measure by if my heels are on my mat and my hips are, that's a perfect width. Most of us though, we're like, I would love for both to be on my mat. So if you don't have that flexibility, just as wide as available. And then same thing again, have the hands behind you if it's a struggle to stay upright, but even better would be elevate the hips a little bit. So up on a folded blanket, and then the heart makes its journey forward. Slow, deep breathing. And then slowly inhale to come on all the way up. And then we'll turn to face the back wall, which is just sort of a leftover habit from the studio. If you're at home, you can face whatever wall you want to. And then we'll lay all the way back, preparing for Supta Parivartanasana, which is our one-legged twist. So laying all the way back. And here we go. So arms in a T position, palms facing down. I like to start actually with the knees bent and then Do a lift and scooch of the hips so that my left hip winds up square in line with the sternum and the neck. And then extend the left leg down. Right knee goes up and then goes over. Be sure that the right shoulder remains on the floor. Slow, deep breathing. And then scoop the belly in, press the low back into the floor, and then square everything up. I like to actually hug the knees in between sides, little rocking side to side, Apanasana, just to be absolutely sure we're squared up. And then other side, so arms in a T, palms facing down, little lift and scooch of the hips so that the right hip is in line with the neck. The right leg extends down, top leg up and over to the side. Be sure our left shoulder's on the floor. Both shoulders firmly on the floor to protect the low back. And scoop the belly in, press the low back into the floor. And same. So squaring everything up, we'll hug the knees in, little rocking side to side. And then we'll prepare for Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, bridge pose. So the feet are on the floor, the knees are bent, and the feet are close to the hips, slightly wider than hips width apart. Arms along the sides, palms facing down. You could do the really nice, gentle version, which is to elevate the hips onto a block. So feel free to do that variation. I'll walk us through the dynamic variation or the little more ambitious variation. So we'll press into the feet, the hips lift up high to the sky. And then if you want to go that little extra bit further, interlace the fingers beneath you and then very carefully tuck one shoulder beneath you and then the other, continuously looking up to the ceiling. And then try to create as much space between your body and the floor as possible, like a really nice tall bridge. A few deep breaths here. And that's already 4. And 5. Lifting just a teensy bit higher. And then reversing course. Allow the shoulders to move back to the starting point and lower the hips all the way down. And hug the knees in, Apanasana, little rock from side to side. And then our last active pose of the day is Ananda Balasana, happy baby. So we'll clasp the outer edges of the feet and then soles of the feet to the sky, draw the knees down towards the floor, but keep the tailbone on the floor, or at least that sort of sensation, trying to keep the spine neutral. There's a tendency for flexion to happen or that curving, but just trying to keep the spine neutral and then allow the knees to draw downwards. We're not pulling so much. We're allowing the knees to melt down towards the floor. It's already 3, 4, and 5. One last time, hugging the knees in Apanasana, maybe a little rock side to side. And then preparing for Shavasana, final resting pose. So if your back wants a little extra support today, feel free to keep the knees bent with the feet on the floor, feet stepping out a little bit further, and then allow the knees to tip in towards each other. Otherwise, we extend the legs, arms out to the sides, palms facing up, and closing the eyes. Softening everything, but especially through the neck, and the shoulders. And all the way down the arms. Letting the fingers softly curl. Softening through the face. Softening around the eyes. And even the muscle between the eyes. And starting to come back. Wiggle the fingers and the toes. And gently roll your head from side to side. And reaching your arms above head on the floor for a big stretch. Feeling totally refreshed. And bend the knees in one at a time. And gently roll over to the right side. Pausing there for just a moment as we come back. And slowly make your way all the way up to a cross-legged seated position, taking all the time you need. And when you arrive, palms facing up on the knees. Inhale, sitting up tall. Exhale, closing the eyes. And taking those final moments to thank yourself for showing up to your practice today and taking care of you. And slowly open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a really good rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much.
See you, Carla. Bye.